Good evening. Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's a regular meeting of the City Council of Fort Walton Beach on Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. If you have a cell phone, if you please turn it off or put it on vibrate, that would be great. This evening, we're pleased to have Reverend Felix Cole with us from Beulah First Baptist Church. He's my friend, and he's also a senior pastor there. If you'd come forward and give us an invitation, please stand and remain standing for the pledge. I don't hate it.
Oh, there it is. I invite you to pray with me. Our Father and our God, we come before you tonight with hearts humbled by the responsibility of leadership and service. We acknowledge your presence among us and seek your wisdom as we make decisions that impact the people of our dear city, Fort Walton Beach. Dear Lord, make us mindful of your word in Micah 6:8, which reminds us of what you require of each of us, to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. Lord, let this be the guiding principle of our discussions and our decisions tonight. May we act with justice, ensuring fairness for all, and we love mercy, showing compassion to those in need. And may we walk humbly, recognizing that true leadership is service, and true wisdom comes from you. Dear Lord, bless this council, our city officials, and every resident of this community. Protect those who serve, strengthen those who labor, unite us all in purpose for the greater good. May our words be seasoned with grace, and our actions be marked by integrity. We commit this meeting to your hands, trusting in your guidance and peace. In your holy and mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. And Council, may we get a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilwoman DeBerry and seconded by Councilman Smith to approve the agenda as presented. Any further comments? Further comments? Council, please vote. Does pass unanimously with 5 members present tonight. That'll bring us to item 5, recognitions. Mr. Reeves, city employee recognitions, if you will, please.
Thanks, Mayor. What an honor tonight to have an employee that has been employed by our city to start with for 30 years. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Nicole. Well, what an honor for me to be able to be here just on an interim basis. But obviously, this employee helped us when I was on council, and I cannot say enough about how much we appreciate someone that's been in the organization for 30 years. I'd like to see Jason Ferber come forward for us. Again, I can't say how much we appreciate you, Jason, for your service and it says on here. We said this. Thanks. Jason, you want to say a few words while you're here tonight?
I've been through a lot here with
Give him the mic.
the city, pandemic, I've been with everything, with a lot of different people, seen a lot of people come and go, and there's been a lot, even a snowstorm. But 30 years has been good.
We sure appreciate your service on that. I'll speak for all the citizens tonight, that the mayor and the council and myself in particular, but we really, really appreciate your service. But yeah, definitely can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much. Roll Tide. Roll Tide.
Okay, we've got another
got the
long-term
mic,
employee.
you gotta drop it.
Margaret Maggie Cyrus, would you come forward? It is an honor to have these people that have really helped this organization be what a great, a pride. It's very. I have a lot of pride for being part of this organization just for the short time that I'm here. But we want to thank you with a certificate and at least a coin, a little bit from us. We can say publicly how much we appreciate you. Do you want to say anything to me? No. That was a quick answer, but Well, I'll say it for you. We really appreciate all you've done, and like I said, Dee Dee, you want to get a picture with us? Yeah, okay, good.
Look, it's not your thing, is it?
Chief Page and you, Dennis, both?
Yeah. Chief.
Good evening. We also had a presentation from the police department for Tony Correa. If Tony can please come forward. So for the past 23 years, Tony Correa has served two masters, I guess. He's been in the United States Air Force as a civilian employee and also a reserve officer with the city of Fort Walton Beach. So as a reserve officer, he gets to come in and do all the fun stuff. He helps out at the parades, hurricanes, other things that go on whenever we need additional personnel. And I don't think Tony has ever said no to us. So he's always come in our time of need. He also provides a great bridge between us and the Air Force, and has really been that conduit between us and Herbert Field. So for that, Tony, we'd like to thank you and present you with this plaque for your 23 years of service. Thank you.
Yeah, just quickly, thank you for this honor, Chief. It was truly an honor to work for the city for 22 years. I'm still around if you need me. My family definitely got me through this, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Tony, let's get your wife up there.
Okay.
You come on, too.
Come here,
There's,
Thank you.
all the family. Sorry. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. That'll bring us to item number 6, and that brings Chief Page back up. Discussion of community land trust support.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, members of the audience. As your Chief of Police, I've seen firsthand how housing instability contributes to the increased calls for service, crime, and strains law enforcement resources. But beyond public safety, there's also a direct impact on the ability to recruit, retrain, and retain a strong workforce, not just in policing, but in all essential city services. So I want to ask you something today. How do we keep local control, reduce crime, and ensure that housing remains stable and accessible to all without government overreach? Well, that's why I'm here today, to discuss community land trusts and how they can improve public safety and support our workforce by fostering a stable housing environment. CLTs are unique because they don't require federal intervention or restrictive policies that limit free markets. Instead, community land trusts are community-driven and put decision-making in the hands of local stakeholders and promote private ownership and ensure long-term housing stability without taxpayer funding bailouts or excessive regulations. So how did I get to this position where I'm at today? The Okaloosa County Health Improvement Plan, and we have two members here, we have Brittany and Emily, hosted a housing summit in 2024, in May of 2024, to address housing challenges in Okaloosa County. From that, a subcommittee was formed, which about 22 different organizations were represented, and different solutions were discussed, but the one solution I want to talk about today is a community land trust. So let me explain how a community land trust works. A nonprofit entity holds a title to the land, and they lease the land out to a resident that either remodels or builds a structure on top of the land that's held by a nonprofit. Typically, the nonprofit leases out the land for 99 years at a very low rate. The residents secure funding, often with times with the assistance of the nonprofit, to build or remodel the structure. This significantly reduces the cost of home ownership and creates a middle step between renting and full home ownership. The cost is significantly reduced. The resident benefits from market appreciation, but when they sell, they must sell to another qualified individual at a price determined, and there's an appreciation sharing formula with the nonprofit. The nonprofit then renews the 99-year lease with the new resident, assuring affordability and homeownership remains intact. This cycle can repeat itself and creates a long-term community stability while still allowing private home ownership in the community. Unlike federal subsidized housing programs, community land trusts operate independently, allowing people to become homeowners while keeping the housing affordable for future generations. Community land trusts are not dependent on government bailouts. They are funded through the private nonprofit, philanthropy, existing housing programs, or the resale of the community land trust property. They prevent speculative market and fluctuations while respecting private ownership. Community land trusts help law enforcement, teachers, first responders, essential workers afford homes in the communities that they work and serve. A major concern when it comes to recruiting and retaining a stable workforce. I want to be clear that community land trusts are not about government intervention in the housing market. Community land trusts are market-driven, community-led approaches that represent property rights, local control, and voluntary participation while addressing one of the most pressing challenges any city faces, affordable housing and sustainability. So my ask today is to consider adding a community land trust to existing local housing assistance plans to provide another tool for addressing housing affordability, and that if the city could inform Okaloosa County and the County Commission that they would be supportive of a community land trust option in their local affordable housing plans, and to be receptive of working with the Northwest Florida Community Land Trust. The Northwest Florida Community Land Trust is started in Escambia County and has projects both in Escambia County and Santa Rosa County, and is looking to come over into Okaloosa County. As a nonprofit, the Northwest Florida Community Land Trust has assisted both Pensacola and Escambia County in removing blighted properties and returning them to the affordable housing market to allow for community members to invest in home ownership. Community land trusts are an opportunity to support the free market housing model that strengthens workforce housing, enhances public safety, and keeps home ownership within reach of more residents without sacrificing private property rights. I thank you for your time in this presentation. There was a flyer that was also produced by OCHIP that was part of the agenda package, which also explains community land trusts a little bit further. And at this time, Mayor, I would take any questions that the council may have.
Certainly. Any questions for Chief Page from council? Mr. Walker?
I'll speak on the matter. I did, as I received this in the agenda package, I wasn't greatly familiar with community land trusts. And so I went and spent some time looking at them and reading the pros and the cons and seeing how it, in my mind, works with the private sector. I'm in real estate, so anything dealing with real estate I'm kind of interested in. So I dug in a little bit, and I was hearing some of the land leasing costs being greatly subsidized. Obviously, it's in exchange for future return at the time of the sale. Comes back to the trust. A portion of the profits come back. But I think my greatest concern with it, in opposition to it, is that what it does to the private landowner, to the private seller, and to other buyers of what might be a blighted property, for them to go in and buy it themselves, a private individual. Buy it and either rehab it, tear it down, build it up, sell it back out in the private market. So, I know affordable housing always is a big topic in government circles and all, but all housing is affordable to someone, and it does play a part in the pay of businesses. It's just the private sector, in my opinion, delivers the best options, keeping subsidized, although it is privately subsidized, although I think they do get some government grants for affordable housing. I just don't like the impact that it does to private homeowners, private sellers, and would-be buyers of that property. I guess my only question for you would be, do you know, or are there any studies available regarding the impact to neighboring properties when one is bought by a community land trust? Does it go up? Does it go down? Does it stay about the same?
I can tell you, as we did the research in community land trusts, that a community land trust house is no different from a neighboring house. So when you look at a house built by a community land trust and you are the casual passerby, there is no difference between the $500,000 house that's on the corner and the second house over that'd be a community land trust house. And lots of times they actually appreciate the neighborhood because they do take those blighted properties and remove them off the block or out of circulation and provide new construction into possibly dated or blighted neighborhoods. When you go to sell that house, you're selling that house, as I briefly talked about in the presentation, to somebody else who is income qualified to allow for that one property to remain within the affordable community. Now, this is not something that takes over a whole neighborhood. The percentage of properties that go under community land trust are probably negligible when you look into a neighborhood. You're talking one property here, one property there, but it allows the opportunity for somebody, as I talked about, if you think of a staircase going up, you start living at your parents' house. At some point, maybe you save up enough to move into an apartment. At that point, you may not be able to make that jump to the top floor yet and go to see fee simple home ownership, where you truly own the house, whether it's mortgaged or paid within cash. This is that intermediate step. So if you have a professional that's starting off as a teacher, law enforcement, firefighter, this allows a professional now to come into home ownership and something that may have escaped them in the past. One of the reasons that I would have an interest in it as a public safety official, and I briefly talked about it, is the long-term value of stable residency. So instead of having a rental property, now you have somebody that is a homeowner, somebody that is now vested within the community and hopefully comes to city council meetings, hopefully gets civically involved in the community, because by all de facto aspects, they are a homeowner now within your community. And they value the appreciation of that property increasing through landscaping, maintenance, upkeep, because when they go to sell that house, they also benefit, as does the underlying nonprofit, in the appreciation of that property.
Thank you. I think that just listening to you there, just to express it removes a property from the private sector. I believe that the private sector will buy that home, improve that home, rent that home, sell that home, do all the things that the land trust would do. But when the land trust shows up and starts buying properties for their claimed affordable housing for purchase and resell later, I'm just not going to be able to support it, so I won't be. I know you're looking for direction from us. I'm one of the no's. Thank you.
Other discussion for council? And are we looking for a motion to support? Presentation.
It was just a presentation. I mean, in the future, it would be nice if the city council would take it up and either send a letter to the county, verbally announce to the county that it'd be supportive in our own local housing plans. If we just add a line as a possible myriad of options, that a community land trust is just one of many options that the city would go down. Through SHIP funding and other sources of funding that are already available for affordable housing, this would just be an additional strategy that could be used in our existing affordable housing repertoire as another route to obtain housing in our community.
Mr. Berry?
Is there any correlation with like HUD housing with this land trust?
It's different than HUD housing. So with HUD housing, the most common form of HUD housing is through vouchers, where you get some type of rental voucher. HUD has other programs with assistance in purchasing housing and everything else. So HUD has a wide menu of programs. So the most common HUD housing is the voucher program. This is actual home ownership. The nonprofit comes and they will buy a lot, and then the nonprofit holds that lot. So that lot had a $200,000 value. And then you build a house on there for $250,000. The free market rate would be a $450,000 house on that market. But now you can allow somebody to move into that house at $250,000 because a nonprofit holds the land. You're only going to be responsible as a homeowner for the actual structure. So it allows people to move into something. And most people probably would not stay in it forever, because at some point, as you progress through your stages of life, you get a better job, your family expands, your income increases. And at some point, you probably want traditional home ownership, but this allows that step in between rental property and traditional home ownership, and it kind of puts together that missing middle piece.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Does the CLT go and acquire properties?
They do, yes. So the community land trust.
So essentially, so they do, yeah, just for sake of time. So if they're acquiring properties, essentially they're also a competitor in the private marketplace.
They are.
So if someone in the private marketplace wanted to acquire said blighted property, they could.
Nothing would stop them.
Okay, so CLT is just, or Community Land Trust is just one of the competitors, and this is a tool that can be, and at this point right now, we don't know, there wouldn't be any financial cost to the city?
There's no cost to the city. So right now, the only thing we wanted to present was what a community land trust is, and we're hoping at some point the city council would amend any affordable housing plans that they would have, just to add a line, say community land trusts are another avenue, and that they would offer support to the county, because the same item is going to be presented to each one of the municipalities in Okaloosa County, and then it will be presented to the Okaloosa County Commission. And the county commission then, the same ask would be to them to include this into your affordable housing programs.
Well, that's the ask and that's the path. Just if we're looking for a consensus, I'm on board to take next steps.
Thanks, sir. Any other questions for the chief? Anyone in the audience? Mr. Odom?
Jay Odom. Affordable housing is a massive problem. And I've heard lots and lots of committees and different things with ideas on how to solve this. Most of them involve government money somewhere to achieve that. This is one of the few I've heard that's purely privately funded. It sounds like I really like the idea, and I would like the J. Odom Group to be on the list to say when this nonprofit gets in place, please come see me, we'll buy a lot and give it to the land trust, because I have a massive problem as an employer of my people finding a nice place to live. And I have the problem of, it's not just the lowest paid employees. I'm trying to recruit talent from out of town, and they come here and they go, I can't afford to live here, so I'm not moving here to work at your company. So I'm happy to participate in this kind of plan where a nonprofit gets together when they get their program in place. I want to be on the list to contribute to that.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak on this topic? All right, seeing none, we're going to go to item 7, consent agenda. Can we get a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Smith, seconded by Councilman Meade to approve the consent agenda as presented. Further comment? Comment? Council, please vote. Does pass unanimously. Thank you, Council. And I'll bring us to item 8, Mayor, City Council comments. And we're going to start with Ms. Perry.
Golly. Thank you, all of you, Mr. Dennis and Nicole, and all of you, the staff working with our budget. I know it was hard, but thank you. And I hope and pray, and I know in my heart it's going to work. It's going to work, and I'll work with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Meade?
I'll hold comments till the end.
All right. Mr. Schmidt?
I'm good at the time.
All right. Mr. Smith?
Want to thank, I don't know, I saw Danny, your Public Works Department, Dennis, thank you guys. We got an email last week sometime about some runoff in Ferry Park, and I got some phone calls, and by the time I had the phone calls, I was like, hey, I got an email from staff an hour and a half ago that they're already on it. So it's nice when you get those phone calls from citizens that are concerned about something going on and staff has already got a handle. So I appreciate you guys being on top of it, and you know, they started again the next day and you got them shut down pretty quick, so I appreciate that.
It's definitely your public works. I mean, he notified me, but he was already on it. I mean, it was Saturday morning at, 10 o'clock. I mean, he was doing his thing. So again, it goes back to the great employees that were here tonight that we thank. So thank you.
It does, and I really appreciate it. Like I said, it makes us look good when we get a phone call from a constituent and say, hey, do you know this is going on? Yep, we've already got it stopped 2 hours ago, so we're on it. We hear you. We appreciate it. So thank you very much, guys.
Mr. Mayor, can I?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I forgot to mention it last meeting, but I want to make sure to piggyback off of what Travis was just saying. Seeing garbage trucks roll around during Snowmageddon, you know what I mean? And seeing those guys literally take some risk to provide the service. I know we don't have the time to go over how we got it all done, or do we need to discuss it? But thank you and your team for going through and doing those things. I'm sure there was some uncharacteristic things that had to be done to accommodate a certain situation. They still got it done. So again, thank you and your team.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Walker?
Save mine till the end, thank you.
All right. And I will say mine as well. We're going to go to item 9, public comments. Anyone wishes to speak on anything that's not on the agenda, please come forward, identify yourself, and please limit your time to 5 minutes.
Lisa Courtney, 221 Beachview Drive. At the last meeting, I believe, well, you know, there were a lot of people here to discuss the 225 Beachview house property and our concerns about it and how it affects our neighborhood in a very negative way. I thought it was going to be on the agenda. That's what was discussed. And it's not on the agenda, and I'm not sure what happened. But there's a lot of concern still about this property and what it's doing to our neighborhood. And it was my understanding that we would have, I don't know if you call it a presentation, from the fire marshal, Mr. Frasetti. I think Mr. Burns was going to prepare something for us to discuss at this meeting. And I don't know what happened.
It will be on a future agenda, is that correct?
I can answer that, Mayor. And Ms. Kopp, you might want to stop me, but we've started engaging some litigation, so therefore we don't want to be out publicly. Could you help me with that, Ms. Kopp? I don't know the proper response. It is
that litigation was reviewed. I don't know that it was determined to be appropriate at this point, but we do have some recommendations to discuss with council in general to deal with the issue, not just for one particular home, but for the entire city potentially, involving recommended ordinances that the city doesn't currently have in place. So we'll be prepared to talk about that. It's not limited to this property though.
Ms. Gordon, I can answer your question. We thought that it might rise to a litigation type standpoint. Now that Ms. Kopp's updated us on it, it hasn't, but there's been some staff work done on it, and we didn't want to do anything publicly that would maybe damage the case in some way if we had to go towards the court system. We're going to actually address some of those things that you talked about with the fire department and with some of the things that maybe we can, not just for your particular issue of our Beachview, but that can help the entire city. So as these things come up, as you know, we are hemmed in a little bit by some of the state legislature has put in place on us, but it's definitely on our radar, and it's been a big thing for us the last 2 weeks since the past meeting. So just know we're working on it. We apologize for not having it on this, but there were some circumstances that we really were beyond our control. So we're working on it, and it will definitely, as the mayor said, it'll be on the next meeting. Appreciate you coming, for sure.
It's hard for us not to know that something is happening.
It's extremely important to us, and the fact that it made it this far, it is definitely on the radar. And like I said, I'm sorry that we couldn't have more dialogue publicly, but it was definitely we wanted to see if it was going to end up in some type of litigation right off, and like Ms. Kopp said, we don't think it is, so it will be on future meetings, but just keep an eye on the city's website. Ms. Barnes will be posting things that it'll keep you up to speed, but it has not fallen through the cracks. Just know that this council's concerned about it, I feel many questions about it, and staff is definitely working on it. So we're sorry it's gotten to that point where everyone, has had so much trouble with it, so we are working on it.
And I would say when you look at future agendas, it probably won't be noticed as that particular address as an issue, but it would be probably noticed as a discussion of vacation rentals or short-term rentals or proposed ordinances to deal with the issues. So I wanted you to see, if you see that on an agenda, then that's where it's coming from.
It's an individual case, so we're working on that separately, but it will, whatever the case is.
Okay, and I appreciate that. I just want to say that this is at least the third, maybe the fourth time we've been here, and so for 3 years we've been hearing that something's going to happen, and so we would appreciate very much if we get a lot of follow through on this. Thank you.
Good deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I ask some questions?
Sure.
And I'm not speaking to this one address, but what can residents do regardless of what the address is? We've had these meetings in the past, and we've said we can open up these other mechanisms to enforce our codes and ordinances through the police department, through other places. What can people do to make the complaints, log complaints, and be proactive?
It starts, obviously with it hasn't, one of the things when I came on board that was so nice when they asked me about when I was in your position as a council member, what benefit do I have living in the city? And the benefit, to me, one of the benefits was that we have excellent code enforcement. Well, I inquired about that shortly after the neighbors at Beachview came in and were quite upset, and rightfully so. I met with the building services and they said, well, we've got a little bit of a hamstring now. The state legislature stepped in and we can't have anonymous code complaints. So you can't just pick up the phone and say, hey, building services, I've got a violation over here. Do you guys mind come taking a look? They have to, as they do in the county, there's an affidavit of a complaint, or they have to come down and make a physical complaint. I'm not sure if they actually have to do it notarized like they do at the county. They just have to come down and physically put their name on a piece of paper. Well, a lot of neighbors don't want to do that with the neighbor that's right next door. And that's typically where complaints come from. So strengthening one thing, our code of ordinances, and then obviously, working with building services to make sure that they are out there working those complaints that they see and being a little bit more, I don't want to say aggressive, but a little bit more noticing things that are going on, since our citizens can't report like they did. Now, I've only been here for 2 weeks, but we've talked about it, and we hope that, we added a third code enforcement officer that is supposed to be out making rounds. So we're gonna work for that, work to make that more of a priority for the citizens. So we know it's a priority of yours. This seat has always been driven by what your directives are and what the citizens are complaining about. It was loud and clear like 2 weeks ago. So as everyone knows, though, the wheels turn a little bit slower as we get some of those things put in place from a legal perspective. But it's something we're working on. So.
Well, and Councilmember Mead, that the state, maybe more for the benefit of the public, but that the state has preempted the city from prohibiting short-term rentals in residential neighborhoods, and so the city's hands are tied on that. But what I know some other cities have done that have similar problems is things like restricting occupancy, putting maximum limits on, dealing with parking, dealing with the impacts. We are allowed to regulate those things, and of course Fort Walton Beach already regulates noise, but it doesn't regulate parking specific to short-term rentals to the extent that it could, and it doesn't have an occupancy limitation. And so there are some things that we are putting together for legal citywide to address the issue. Go ahead.
Do we have a noise ordinance outside the downtown?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do.
We do.
Okay, so and we have police officers who are trained with decibel readers, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what I'm looking for people who are here tonight is, if there's a noise complaint, they can call the police department, the police department can come use their decibel readers at the property then.
They could address the noise as one impact.
And then our.
But if you have other restrictions on occupancy and so on, you might not have it rise to the noise level that it's rising to now, and they won't have to make the complaint, is what I'm hoping to suggest.
But we
Trying to
don't,
avoid it in the first place.
but we don't have occupancy ordinances right now.
Not yet.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Walker?
And on those occupancy, I'm in the real estate business, when we have, who's supposed to be living there, and then it's like, well, there's 6 people in there, and they're like, well, they're not living here, and they're not staying here, they're just visiting
It's an
here.
overnight restriction, not an entrance restriction.
Yeah, and that's got to be tough on the chief to determine if someone spent the night there. Right? But the noise, and parking and noise, those are 2 things that you're blocking the street. Blocking the street would be one item, and the noise, obviously, the decimal meter, those 2 things. But determining if someone stayed overnight or came after midnight and just started partying at 1
It's in
a.m.
conjunction with parking.
Okay.
So yes, the more objective it is, the easier it is to enforce. But one of the things we did down in Miami was we wrote in the ordinance advertised. So when
Yes,
they
and that's the same
advertise,
thing right across the bridge.
so when they
It's not foreign to
advertise,
Miami.
when they advertise more than whatever we said are at 8 or 12 people, we would get them for posting the ad for more than 8 or 12 people. So that would kind of then take down the market from out of town guests that were coming, because then you could only advertise the short-term rental for whatever the maximum that the city allowed for. So we really tracked the advertisement and not so much enforced the occupancy by doing a head check for beds.
Gotcha.
Or the advertisement can be prima facie evidence of the violation of the occupancy.
Sure.
So you just take the ad, and then you see,
You're advertising it for 50 people,
well,
and,
that would be an automatic, that would be a big issue.
well, as long as the
Yeah.
occupancy was less than that. Because right now, we
I
don't
would
have
assume
one.
We would not have an occupancy of 50. Typically, it would be 2 per bedroom plus maybe 2 or 4 for the whole place. So if you had a 6-bedroom home, it
Sure.
would be
12
16 or
plus,
something
yeah,
like that.
gotcha, okay.
And then you can have an overall cap too, but yeah,
Gotcha.
usually not 50.
If I could, one more
Yes, ma'am.
time. And Ms. Reed, we are very aware of the noise ordinances, but thank you for asking that. I don't have them with me, but we have made numerous calls to law enforcement, and they've been very responsive. But with the decibel meter, oftentimes there in the front yard with the decibel meter, the noise is in the back. It may be down this particular address I can only talk about. Maybe down by the water, maybe the party down by the water, which the lots are deep where we live. So the decibel meter doesn't really, do anything. And one of their officers explained to us that they can't go into the backyard with the decibel meter unless they're invited, is the way he put it. So the decibel meter doesn't really do much.
Can they come into your backyard? You could allow them on your backyard. I mean, if it's on the property line, you could allow them.
Yes, and we talked to them about that one time too. And again, law enforcement has been responsive, very much so, and we appreciate that. But, they come in and they say, you have to quiet down, you're very loud. And they say, okay, we will, and they leave. And then there we're left, because now they've come back again with the noise. And we get looked at as the big complainers, and it's really not, it's not really us that's the problem. So, but anyway, thank you for asking about the noise thing, but we're very well aware of that. So, thank you again. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you.
Ms. Cobb, was the last conversation we had about it with Chief Beige and all, is the direction towards multiple noise violations being assessed to the property owner? Wasn't one of the problems that it wasn't being assessed to the property owner, it was kind of to the occupant that was there, addressed to them? So I can understand her frustration. And they show up once and they give them a citation. It's kind of to the person, not to the property owner.
Even
Is
if
that?
it's to the property owner, I mean, my experience is noise is transient. It comes and goes depending who they're renting to. I don't find that it resolves the issue because it's like a cost of doing business. When you're renting your house for that much money, and I'm not speaking about this particular property, I have no idea how often they rent or what their income is, but generally, when you're making a significant amount of money, the noise violation, those citations are a cost of doing business, and it's more profitable for them to just keep going. And that's why I'm suggesting that we put together some other ideas for you to improve upon the ordinance, because at the time it was written, I don't think the city had the level of short-term rentals that they're starting to see now, and so it's time to maybe reconsider maybe adding and modifying to address the current situation citywide. Just some thoughts, and you don't have to do it, but we'll bring it to you for you to consider at least.
Yeah, I like the sound of that and bringing it to us regarding the occupancy and parking ordinances. And I was just on the understanding that that STR ordinance was very restricted, because of that,
The state law.
Correct. But we're able, what I'm hearing you say is do some things for occupancy and parking through ordinance for the short-term micro hotel rentals. Is that what
Yes, what the statute prohibits is you can't prohibit the location of a short-term rental in a residential neighborhood. You cannot regulate the duration or the frequency of the rental, meaning how often they rent or for how long. You can't say, you have to rent for at least 31 days. If they want to rent for 2 days, then it is what it is. So those are the restrictions, but that leaves other things for us to regulate until the legislature changes it some more. But right now, we can regulate occupancy and noise and trash and parking and land use type regulations.
Perfect. So I bring that up because our neighbors and our friends on Beachview is the state won't allow us to discontinue short-term rentals.
Correct.
Because we have zero authority over that. What I'm hearing us say the but is, though, we can move forward with occupancy and things that Chief Beige brought up to our attention through his research with Miami as far as advertising at a certain, that kind of meat inside of the ordinances moving forward.
Yeah, for me, the advertising is evidence of the occupancy. I don't know about saying you cannot advertise, but I do know about saying you can only have this number of occupants, and if you advertise beyond that level of occupants, then you are violating that code.
Okay.
And I think that's what Chief Beige is saying too.
Yeah, so so to kind of recap, I appreciate y'all continue to bring this up to attention, but I also want to add, as that is getting brought back to us and more meat to be able to enforce occupancy and parking, also to add to the tools besides continuing to call our fine men and women in the police department, please consider continuing, I know some of y'all have it, but emailing it at citycouncil@fwb.org. Because I remember y'all loud and clear about a year and a half ago. And then we heard y'all recently, a couple weeks ago. Continue to work us, apply the healthy accountability on us in between time. Because I'll be completely honest, I had no idea until y'all brought it back up to us a couple weeks ago that it was still an issue. So consider that, as well as continuing to call our police department, dispatch, and those kind of things, but citycouncil@fwb.org as well.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Leslie Hostaway. I live at 219 Beachview Drive. I just wanted to bring this up to you. It's our petition that we got about probably 3 years ago, and we gave it to y'all, but we'll give it to you again. About 60 people in the neighborhood that requested that it be controlled. Some of the micro hotel, you're calling that 225. Try to regulate, or not regulate it. We know you can't do that, but we're just hoping that you can help us with it somehow.
Absolutely, I think that's the direction we're headed.
So it's
Give
just.
that to the city, give that to the city clerk,
All right.
please.
And Mayor and Council, we did look this up this past week and sent it to Jeff Burns, and I think you will copy.
He has looked very deeply into it, and everything I'm saying, he is in agreement with.
And as far as the parking goes, well, they bring people in big Greyhound buses, so they don't need to park the bus, they just stop it, drop 50 people off, and then they leave, and then they come back later.
They're already doing that?
Oh, yeah, they've been doing that.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yep.
So-
Just so,
Yeah,
you know,
something.
so you know about the park.
No, that's good to know, thank you.
Can I speak?
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Crystal, and I'm the property manager for this property that you guys keep discussing. I'm a good friend of the homeowners. He is military, he cannot be here, he's private, he's blind, and so I need to come in his defense. First of all, let me go ahead and say that all these are accusations, okay? I have several surveillance cameras on property that can prove to you that these are, no Greyhound bus, you guys, will drop off anybody on a residential street. They have spots where they do that at, you know,
We have
an actual
pictures of
Greyhound. It's, okay. On one occasion, did we have a, like a transport bus? No, 2 occasions. One was a softball team, they were here for tournaments, and one was a church trip or whatever, a bunch of young males with their whatever they were. But this is not, so let me just say that somebody who spoke lives at 201 Beachview Drive. I don't know if you guys know where Beachview is, but the Gardner's Beach is on that street. It's literally right down the road. There's so much traffic there. There's 201 Beachview and 252 Beachview or what, those houses are not even close proximity to us, okay? So any noise complaints or whatever, and noise complaints furthermore, I have the police, the incident reports, you guys, it's all public, you can pull it too. Look at the remarks on there from the cops. I mean, there are several of them that won't even respond because it's not justified. They pull up, and I'll tell you what they do, they walk halfway down the driveway, and they use their little decibel, you know, to judge the sound, and 8 out of 10, every call, they hear no sound. There's even remarks on there where it says that there's not even any lights on in the house or anything like. Okay, so the guests who were there, they didn't know that the cops were coming. It's not like they shut the lights off and hid. It's just that these are bogus calls, and it's getting ridiculous. I don't understand. I have a feeling that this is personal because in 2002, the homeowner of 225 Beachview and his neighbor got into an altercation, and actually there was a no contact order. He was charged, okay? And you can look that up. That's all public information too. That Bill, the neighbor, Bill Lynch, is 90% of these calls attacked Chris. I have video of it, and it's all Oakland County Clerk Court. You can look it up, okay? And so the people who are complaining don't even live in close proximity, but they are the ones who have owned these houses for years, okay? So they're like their own little family or whatever. I don't know if they're ganging up. The noise is BS because, like I said, look at the police incident reports. Look at the remarks on there from the cops. This is not a micro hotel. We are not rented out very, very often. If they're going to come up with these complaints, ask them for dates. They come to take note of the dates and then come to me. And I can pull surveillance cameras and show you how many people are on property. I can walk any one of you through this property. It is not what they're making it out to be. Another one during the last meeting said that he had altered the inside of the home to make it 6 bedrooms and 6 bathrooms. That's a lie. No, there has not been any changes made to the interior of this property. No permits have been pulled to do any kind of construction except for the pool area and the pavers. That's it. He has put so much money into this, and it's not, I just don't, this is not, it's unfair and it's unjustified, and there's proof that this is all BS. And I hate that it has given all Airbnbs a bad name, but whatever comes of it, comes of it. But I just want to let you guys know that these police reports and these noise complaints are bogus, okay? And you can clearly see that when you pull the reports. Read them. I have them right here. If you want me to give them to you, I'll give you what I have. I have the papers of the harassment from Bill. And the homeowner lives in that, he lives a half a block away from there. He is a resident of Bradley, you know, but he's never home. So there's nothing to be feared of him. You never see him over there. He's a pilot for Delta and he's active military. He's never home, you know. So it's not like the homeowners who want to make a complaint like you guys were just discussing, that they don't want to cause any problems with their neighbors, so blah, blah, blah. Well, Chris is never there, you know, and he's nothing to be feared at all. So all I'm saying is that during the last meeting, there were just so many residents who don't even live in close proximity. One of them was actually 201, who is the corner of Eglin and Beachview Drive, and their house faces AJ's. Why would anything have to do with that resident, you know, with the people who live there? What? And the parking is not an issue. The only call that has come for the parking issue was a truck that had a trailer with 2 jet skis on it, and he was just there for a brief second. They did not park it overnight right there. They don't need to park overnight right there because, like one of the residents said, yes, our front yard is pavers. There's ample enough parking there for the amount of people that's there. We don't drive down that street any day, and you will see so many people and so many cars on there. I drive down it every day. I actually have 5 Airbnbs that I service on Beachview Drive. You know what I mean?
What is the occupancy at 225?
Airbnb does that, okay? When you sign up for an account with Airbnb and they ask you how many beds you have or whatnot, and in each bedroom, we have 1 bed, okay? We have a trundle bed, I guess you would say, like a day bed with a trundle under it, out in the living room. Like there's, because all the sofas in there have pull-out beds or whatnot, that's how Airbnb.
You just asked an occupancy.
Yeah,
You're just curious.
as an occupancy, I cannot give you off the top of my head because we've made a lot of changes. Sofas don't have sofa beds and whatever. But I think it says it sleeps 44. But I just want to let you know that is including like air mattresses and stuff or whatnot. But we don't list it out that way. Let me just tell you, that is not Chris's doing or mine. Actually, I don't even handle any of that financial aspects or, you know, the listing or reservations.
Thank
I
you.
just handle the actual property, you know, and any kind of issues that come up. And I do monitor. When we do have a huge, like a huge reservation or whatever, where there's several people there, I stay on these cameras, you know, and it is closely monitored. I do have images of like the text, I can give you several guests who have had an issue with Bill, standing there recording them with his cell phone. I was taking the trash cans in just a couple weeks ago, and he was shining the light in my eyes, you know, like a really bright light. And I told him, I said, "You're being recorded," and he stopped. But the whole time he had this shine in my face as I'm coming back up the driveway. So it's not us, I can assure you that is causing this. I understand that nobody wants to have an Airbnb living beside them, but that's beside the point. This is ridiculous. We're being targeted, and it's unjustified. You know, if anything, we are being harassed. And as a matter of fact, it even states that in one of these police reports, that this is getting ridiculous. It's out of hand now. You know, it's wasting their time, it's wasting ours, it's making us look bad, and it's actually wasting yours, because these are all accusations, and that is all they are. They're accusations. They cannot be proven. Ask for the proof. We have been served with papers not too long ago from code enforcement, and we are found everything is legal. You know what I'm saying? There is nothing, we're not operating illegally, and there is no. Everything is good. Everything is up to code. So I honestly don't see what the issue is. But everything that they're saying is BS, and I can't take it anymore. And I, like I said, I have surveillance, so I can show you. You know what I'm saying? Give me dates, times, and I can pull them because that is our property.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Leslie Costello, 219 Beachview. There's 4 of us here that live across the street or next door to the property. The complaints aren't bogus. You know, when you've got your doors shut in your house, we live 3 houses away from it, and it's booming inside of our house anyway, the complaints aren't bogus.
I think we understand that, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm the guilty one next door. I wasn't going to speak, I just wanted to hear what was going on. I've never been here before. My name is Bill Lynch, and I have called the police, yes. I have endured 25 weddings next door in the last couple of years, along with these other folks. Greyhound buses full of people dumped off out front, frat parties, all kinds of get-togethers. Spring break is coming up in a very short time. The parties start. It never ends up until the end of the year. I had an argument with the owner a couple years ago. I got in trouble about, I got an assault charge for, going over in his driveway and threatening him, which he led me into that, which I was waiting to see what she had to say. He led me into that argument, and so I paid for it, and as far as legally, but I've tried to, fight this for the last few years. It's gotten ridiculous with Greyhound buses full of people, 25 weddings coming from all over the U.S. Never know where they're coming from. You get people that come down here with the expectation of, haven't seen their families for a long time. Whoever's getting married, they're there 10 days ahead of time. They're there to party. They're there to meet their old family members, and it just goes on and on. There's pre-wedding, there's the wedding, and then the all-night parties, and then there's the post people that hang around, and then they bring them in from every Airbnb on Beachview and every street nearby, and they're out in my front yard in the middle of the night from these other Airbnbs, catching Ubers. They're walking drunk between the Airbnbs. Right, the wall right there is where her house is, that house is, and here's my house and bedrooms right here. And where the TV is right there is in between, and they're right there, catching Ubers, drunk. They're making noise in the whirlpool, everything. I know this is, you've heard all this, you've seen my emails that I sent. And I just want to say that, 25 weddings, is this place exempt from a business? Because that's what they are.
No, actually, when you're done, I'm going to address that with council next, because that goes beyond noise. Now we're talking
I don't know
about-
what all, I could go on and on and on for 30 minutes about what's gone on in the last few years. I mean, there's boats coming up, all kinds of stuff. But I can tell you more if you want to hear it, but I don't know if you want to hear it. But, it's not just us making stuff up.
Mr. Lynch, I do think we have that picture, but Ms. Kopp has something she'd like to share with you, I believe.
Okay, yeah, so another thing that we can do is address the land use issue. Again, this is much easier, I think, to deal with than transient noise. When you have essentially what he's describing as a commercial activity in a residential area. Now, what you can do is pass an ordinance that talks about commercial special events not being permitted in a residential area. Again, the advertising is prima facie evidence of that. Any kind of wedding that is, or pre-wedding party, any kind of large party that is done for compensation is a commercial activity. It's not a family having a wedding. So we have the issue of how do you know the difference between a home having a party and a short-term rental operating as an event venue. Well, you look at the number that occurs, 25 is not reasonable. More than, 2 a year is probably not reasonable, but the number, can be modified. You take that and/or advertising, the number plus advertising, and you have a very, in my opinion, easy enforcement case. Whereas a noise citation is going to come and go, something like that is tangible for the council to address, I think.
As
And
well as
so-
for future planning as well, correct? Because we're very fortunate, I think, that 225 Beachview is really our only micro, and I know it's not fortunate for y'all, but my understanding is this is the only kind of big STR that we've really, over 8 years, been impacted here. What I'm hearing you say is too, as the economy changes, this will also help prevent this for future neighbors and future areas of Fort Walton Beach, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And the thing is, they really do have to comply, because while your hands are tied sometimes with a single-family home and code enforcement, because, you can't foreclose a homestead property. If someone has a non-homestead property and
Not
they
living in it, that's
continue
what it sounds
violating the
like.
code, there's nothing to stop, if they don't comply, there's nothing to stop the city from taking that action. So right now, we might not have all the ordinances to address it, but I think there are things the city council can do citywide to address the issues citywide.
Do you need any support from us to bring those draft ordinances to the table by a certain time, or you already got a good pulse on
Well,
that?
we already, I've already written such ordinances elsewhere, so I can modify them for Fort Walton Beach's need, and it won't take long to get here. If the direction is to go ahead and bring them as a first reading, I would need direction. Otherwise, I was just going to put some information together, discuss it with staff, and then take it to council for discussion. But if you want it faster, say the word.
No, I like that path, but what's that expectation as far as bringing it back here for review?
Well, it's already been written.
So the meeting with staff is the workflow, and then
Yeah,
possibly...
I'm going to make some tweaks to it, and we're going to get it to community
Awesome.
development and PD staff, and then council was the plan, unless you want a different.
No, I just try, while we all have all parties here.
Yeah.
Because I know y'all are working really hard. They don't always get a chance to see or hear what all the hard work y'all do. It's like that duck, on top it just floats, but underneath y'all are getting after it. So that's why I wanted to ask those questions, and I like the direction that it's going. So thank you for putting attention to that, Mr. Reeves.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hello. I want to make myself known to part of the crew over here. My name is Sherry Jackson. I live on Beachview, and I'm just going to say the exact same thing that they said. I live basically across from the Blue House or the hotel, and I have seen the buses unload lots and lots of people. I've seen all of the traffic that comes through, all of the people that are out there partying, and you've already heard it from all of us, so I'm just going to reiterate it. But one of the other things I want to talk about are speed breakers on our street. It kind of goes along with all of the Airbnbs that we've got in there. The people that are driving up and down the streets, Leslie and I stand out in the street just talking, and we'll yell at people at the same time to slow down. They think that the 25-mile-an-hour speed sign that's in there is a suggestion, that they can really go 45 or 50 miles per hour. So are there any options to get speed brakes put on our street? And it gets worse during spring break too. When people can't get to the beach, they come to Garner's Beach. And so we have a flood of people that are coming in and out of the neighborhood. And I've driven down the street before and had a guy pass me on the street and I live just 1 block from the beach. He passed me and then turned into the parking lot at the beach. He was in that big of a hurry to get there. I confronted him with it and he was kind of stunned, but we need some help as far as that's concerned as well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. All right, does anybody else have anything else that's not on the agenda?
I thought that, first of all, my name is Lou Williams. I'm with the Greater Peace Missionary Baptist Church, which is at 101 First Street. And I was summoned to be here. I thought, but I don't see it on the agenda. I drove all the way from Crestview to be here, but I don't see it on the agenda. I was told that you wanted an update on the project, so I came prepared for an update on the project. But I'm not going to update you on the project if I ain't on the agenda.
No, you're here, you get 5 minutes, sir.
Mayor, we had asked for that, or council had asked for an update from them. You've had one from a couple of other people.
We did.
So this is his update, and we told him just to do it in public comment.
Okay, perfect.
You want me to do just public comment? It's been more than 5 minutes. Well, Mayor and council, as you know, first of all, we were grateful for the dollars that you allocated for the project. And shortly thereafter, as you know, my pastor, Pastor Bolger, took sick and ill and passed away. And that certainly caused, you know, some concern of ours in terms of moving forward. But we currently do not have a pastor. But we have, in the last 2 weeks, elected a new pastor. He's coming from Jackson, Tennessee. And he's actually going to have to try to move to Crestview because we can't find affordable housing in Fort Walton Beach for one. So he's looking for someplace we can afford to move to. So I hope that we can get some affordable housing just holding down here. And so we hope that if you give us some time to get him here and get his feet on the ground, you know, he's from out of town, so he doesn't have any knowledge of people here. And, he's originally from Quincy, Florida. It's going to take him a couple of months perhaps to get up to speed. And then we'll probably need to assess going forward from there. Now, there was 2 reasons why we were delayed. The other one was the fact that we had this reverter clause in the deed. And we have been working to get this reverter clause removed. I did send just today to Tim. And, I hope the last piece of documentation that's needed, which was an appraisal of the property. Now, we speak with 2 hats. I'm a deacon at my church, and so I'm following the rules. You wanted me to fill out an application, you wanted me to get some ruling from an attorney and get an appraisal, which was kind of costly to us to do this because you didn't have a process, you said. And I'm still wondering why your process simply wasn't to make a motion and vote to remove that reverter clause. That's the process that typically it is. Because, again, we gave you property and you gave us property. We didn't put a reverter clause in the property we gave you, but you stuck a reverter clause in the property you gave us. Now, not you personally, but the city council in 1985 did that to us, and I think that was certainly unfair. And you should have rectified that. This council should rectify that without me even having to do what you had to do. But I did it anyway, all right? And so I'm here before you. And what really wasn't surprising to me was the fact that you said, well, we never had to ask. We never had a process before in all the years that you've been on city council. So now one person has to have a reverter clause removed, and you develop a process. And I wondered, if you never had to use it before, will you ever have to use it again? So it's only going to apply to me, to this particular thing? Well, I think that's unfair. But we were doing. So I think that this council should look at what we said. We gave you property, no clauses. You gave us some property, and you snuck a clause in there. So I can't develop that property until you take that reverter clause out of it. Because it says, if we do, that property reverts back to you. So I'm not going to do anything until you change the reverter clause. So I can't do anything until you take it out. All right? So I would hope that it will be on the agenda to remove that reverter clause in that property. Next time. I still got a minute and 5 minutes. I think I'm going to beat you up for at least another minute and 5 seconds because of that reverter clause in that property game. I think that you know what I'm saying. I think you know it's not fair. I'm looking at David Schmidt and Travis and even Payne Walker over there. I know y'all know that was not fair, right? And so now to have us jump through the hoops to remove it, Gloria, it's still not fair.
What is, excuse me, what is the address that you're speaking of?
The address of the property that we're talking
The-
about is
with the-
26 Wyndham.
Uh-huh.
Are the lots that we received from the city for, in exchange for the 2 lots that we gave to the city, who they donated to another nonprofit.
The city has a process for removing the reverter clause. You just have to file the application with staff.
That was a process that was developed only when we came to ask for that reverter to be removed.
Have you filed the
had no-
application,
You
sir?
had no process prior to that.
Have you filed the application and applied?
I filed the application and replied.
Okay,
Well,
good.
what I'm trying to say is that you didn't have a process until we asked for it.
You
Nobody's asked for
you
that.
asked and you got it.
No, I've asked the city council to remove the reverter clause. And then they came up with a process for me to ask the city council to remove the reverter clause. You cheated me, and I've asked you to undo that unfair thing that you did to us. Now that's, Kimberly, you weren't here back in 1985, and none of you were on the council group. I was.
No, I just know there's a
I was the one
solution
who
to
came
your,
before this council.
problem that you're discussing, so I'm
The solution
letting the council
is the
know.
motion to remove the reverter clause and to rectify what y'all did, what was done in 1985.
Well, I think Mr. Williams, we will follow the process, unfortunately, so if you
Well,
follow what we...
And I followed the process, I've done that too.
Okay, then it should be a subject of a future,
you know what?
should be on the future agenda.
Mayor, why would you ask us to get an appraisal of the property so you can understand what the reverter was valued at? What was the value of the reverter? Why would we be asked to do that instead of your attorney doing that for you?
I'm not familiar with the process, but I know since we have a process, we need to follow the process.
I would just say to the council, because if I was going to have my property appraised, I would want to select the appraiser. I would not want to have anybody else be appraising my property, so I wouldn't be complaining about that particular issue, but I think that's why it was written that way, to be fair to the private property owner, so that they could choose their appraiser.
No, it was written that way so that I would pay the cost of it. I didn't need an appraiser.
Mr. Mayor, I just a question as well, because I vaguely remember this from some time ago when it came up, when the money was being granted for the development of it, and that's, I believe, when the clause came up, and you said back in 1985, the property, there was a swap. For whatever reason, and we might have access to that, but I don't know why they chose to put a reverter clause on it, which was restricting your use. You've then come forward and asked for a different use, which is saying, hey, that's a problem, you got to get rid of the reverter clause. So I don't know why the reverter clause was put in there, but you accepted it in the trade back then. It was a valuation considered a restriction on the property, and you said that works for me. And then years later, it no longer works for me, and you want us to just make a motion to remove it. I don't know what the process is either, but I'm interested in.
Well, you developed the process, I followed the process. But
Okay.
that's not the way it worked. We didn't realize that there was a reverter clause in that deed back then. We would not have traded it under those bases, under those terms.
Are you saying it was added after you had the property?
I don't know, it was 1985.
Okay.
It was 1985. We were just happy that we had that property. I didn't look at that deed, and I didn't even discover it was in there until we started to develop this property.
Did you use a real estate agent?
I'm sorry?
No,
we didn't.
never.
We didn't. I worked directly with the city manager. I was the only one here in the room in 1985.
Hey, Mayor, we'll make an effort to make sure that we have it to bring before you some more formality for Mr. Williams so that he doesn't, know that we're working on it. And I know there is a procedure. We'll make sure that we do whatever we need to do to make sure it happens.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you for being here. Anyone else have an issue for public comments? Something not on the agenda? All right. Seeing none, we're going to go on to item 10, action, direction, and discussion. 10.1, waiver of additional water and wastewater fees at Freedom Center. Mr. Payne.
Mayor and Council, Daniel Payne, Public Works Utility Services Director. Tonight before you got an item, and I'm just going to tell you kind of how it's going to go on that end. You'll see that there's no full recommendation. We're kind of leaning on council on that side. Just to give you a background, before we got in deep, but just where we're at this point. Freedom Tech Center. I think everybody knows where it is, previously Freedom Beacon on that side. Located Lewis Turner, right? In 2016, the city had ordinance 1934, which is a waiving of 100% of impact and connection fees for properties that were annexed into the city. We ran that for a period of time, and it is expired. At the present day, there was also another ordinance that we had in place, 1977, which was just a regular 75% reduction on impact fees for like people within the city at that point in time. We were renewing those on 2-year periods. We did it quite a few times, and then it finally sunset in 2023, January, and we haven't been operating on that, so there's no fee waivers at this time at our current point. In 2017, I do believe Mr. Odom, the Air Force had this surplus piece of property that they had that they wanted to develop. Mr. Odom and his team were the beneficiaries of that, and it was kind of set off a race about where it was going to go. Stanton County come to the city. He expressed his desire to come to the city. One of the deals was some of the ordinances that we had in place. On December 12th, 2017, we, in order to show the annexation ordinance, the 100% of fees, we needed to know kind of what that dollar amount was. Basically because, you guys want to know what you're approving and waiving on that side. So we had come up, based on the conceptual development schedule, we had come up with this number that we see and that we, it's written in stone in present day. It's $973,000, almost $1 million. That was based, a lot of preliminary stuff on there. They have since moved through, you can see all the buildings there and everything else is gone up and all that. Here recently, existing city manager, and then on to Dennis, we got a letter from the Odom Group requesting, basically a further fee waiver on that side. Change in the development schedule, stuff changes at time. We understand that's 8 years ago. That bottom line number that you guys see, the almost $1 million, the 973 number, it hasn't been accounted for. We have a couple things that we've done. One is, the fees have changed from 8 years ago to now, as well as the way that we calculate those fees on that side. In addition to those ordinance have expired, right? The 75% limits on that side as well. So, Mr. Odom and them, dollar amount wise, your dollar probably didn't go as farther as it previously did when we did it. They do have a remaining new revised development schedule that they sent and the letter provided. There is a dollar amount attached to it. For us on our end, we looked at, hey, what were the previous ERCs calculated, approved and waived versus what they are now, since that could be kind of a common language. It's like the addition of 40, right about 46 ERCs. And like I said, during the last 8 years, that credited dollar amount has been impacted by periodic adjustments to our water and sewer connection fees, and we had a rates study as well as an impact and connection fee study in 2020. So recommendation-wise, we don't have one. I know there's a lot of numbers, there's a lot of ordinances, there's a lot of things. Mr. Odom's here on that end. I'm here to answer any questions on it, but we were looking for some guidance, basically on approval of the fee waiver. I will say, if it is, we would rather almost a development schedule on staff's level, because we do think if there's another dollar amount, we'll probably run into the same situation. If I have a price of a meter that changes $1 tomorrow, then that amount doesn't go as far as it did today, right? So if that was the case, I think ERCs are the common language, but once again, I'm here to answer any questions I have. Mr. Odom if you'd like to have Mr. Odom get up here and do this, he has a couple boards if you want to listen to that and then ask, we can do that as well, but you're looking on recommendation for you guys and how to proceed.
All right, thank you. First, any questions from council for Mr. Payne? Mr. Smith?
In the financial information, it says this item does not have a budgetary impact relating to the Charter Amendment Ordinance 2145 due to exemptions defined within.
That's a good point. Trying to tie these items into charter amendment, I think that's kind of the direction I think we've all came up through on that end. This is an enterprise fund, and within the enterprise fund, it's not a payroll item, right? So the enterprise funds being water and sewer, utilities fund, solid waste, or commonly referred to sanitation fund, and then the stormwater utility. So these items that you have in the operating expenses within, and the impact and the tap fees and those items are not subject to, they're always subject to responsibility, but they're not subject to the specific guidelines that were in the charter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions specifically for Mr. Payne? Mr. Odom, the floor is yours.
I just got a quick
Sure.
handout on the project. I want to start with thanking you for all the support the city has given us in this project. We're incredibly proud of it. I got for anybody in the audience who would like one. If you can hand it around, anybody wants one. Sounds like a long time ago, 2017, but have to realize that that was the beginning of my negotiation with the Air Force.
Mayor?
Oh, I'm sorry.
For the recording.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jay Odom with the Freedom Tech Center. Back in 2017, we have been awarded the right to lease this property from the Air Force. Acres out of Lewisburg, right by the courthouse. Negotiating that lease took 2 years with the Air Force. Once they awarded it to us, it took 2 more years to actually get to the lease so that we could get started. And the pandemic stuck its head in there, and the Air Force all went home and worked from home for quite a while. And so it sounds like a long time. A lot of that time wasn't in our control of getting started. But now that we are started, you can see the plan there. I have a big picture of it here to bring you up to speed on where we are. We have completed and opened the Home 2 Suites in May of 2024. We opened the Holiday Express in September of 2024. There's 312 apartment units under construction, of which approximately half of those are completed. We have 63 occupied units. We're leasing the first half. We anticipate being 100% completed with the 312 apartments by May, June of 25. And currently on the ground, we've spent over $100 million in the city of Fort Walton so far. But taxable value that you're going to get paid for up from when we started to now, we've been paying property tax on land. That number that we paid you already is well in excess of $100,000 of property tax to the city. And then in the 2025 tax year, where both hotels and the apartments will be fully appraised and online, in 2025, we'll pay approximately $207,000 in property tax. When we're built out in the relatively near future, we have 2 people right now that are moving forward with office buildings for their headquarters. One of them, I can tell you who it is, Beast Code, local defense contractor. Their building is in development order approval process with you currently. As soon as we receive that development order, we'll go to work on building them a 36,000 square foot 2-story tech-looking office building for their world headquarters. We're now in talks with another tenant that wants 50,000 feet, which would take our last developable spot. They said they'd like to be in by August of 2026. That's optimistic but not impossible, but tough. But anyway, the point is they're highly interested and we're moving forward with them. East Coast is done. We have also have a daycare center. The gentleman that's pro with us, he has 6 daycares in the area already. We're going to build him one and lease it to him. It's 16,000 square feet, they handle 270 kids. They do everything from pre-K through all different ages. Just toured one of his places in Crestview yesterday, first class operation. Those plans are almost complete, the building permit, and we'll be here soon asking for their development order forward. So things are going really well. It's been a great investment on your part. When I first got this property, it was in the county, and I had the option to stay in the county. But this ordinance has the driving force with me annexing into the city and subjecting myself to your taxes from now forward. And so we did a plan at the beginning, gets to what we have. The market's evolved. Originally, we only had 1 hotel. We had fewer apartment units. But as the demand has come along, we've morphed that into second hotel, less office space, more apartments. So now that we can see what the plan looks like, I'm back asking for the waiver of these final things. I'm happy to put on here. I'll never be back. Whatever this is, I'm happy to take it and say, whatever you do in the future, if you change and you want more, you can't have them, this is it. Because I understand this. But the ordinance that was in place for 2 years that waived 100% of fees for anybody that voluntarily annexed did not have an expiration date. The ordinance only lasted 2 years and you had to annex in that 2 years. That didn't mean you had to use those taps or know your entire build-out plan during that 2 years. So that's why I'm back now asking to wrap this up. This shows in this color of the project that's already been waived. That's the apartments, the Home 2 Suites, the Holiday Inn Express, and these are the sites that, and I currently have $34,000 of credit remaining out of what you've already approved. So between that $34,000 and what I'm asking for, we'll finish out the rest of the project. And so you can see the numbers, and roughly $270,000 a year when it's built out. And that's at today's millage rate and today's values. That doesn't, I didn't account for any, escalation in the value of the real estate, so the taxes go up with that. But the numbers I'm stating are just based on your millage rate right now today and the value of your index today. So I'm asking for, and I won't need all of these this year. I'll need a significant amount of them, maybe half of them this year, hopefully the rest of them next year. But we're moving towards full build out quite a bit faster than we anticipated. It's going really, really well. And we're happy with our $100 million investment in the city. And I'm hoping that you see what we're doing and like it and see this as a great investment with this ordinance that you did, because without it, I'd still be in the county. So any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Mr. Berry? Yes, correct me if I'm wrong. When you first applied for the waiver, again, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you had promised or said that you're going to be building apartments for the military and accept the rent as their housing allowance plus COLA. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That we were going to have lots of military, that's true. That I stated what the rent would be, no, that's not true.
Okay, that's...
We have a ton, we have almost predominantly all military lives there now.
but I'm looking here, and I don't see, I know, I don't see where you built it. Where's the apartments that you built for them?
The apartment sits on 22 acres right here, 312 units of apartments.
It's on the bottom of the picture.
The bottom of the picture. I thought those were the luxury apartments back in the, towards the back.
They are very nice.
And luxury homes.
There's no,
Oh, so there's no homes?
there's no single family homes.
Okay, so all that, they're like large luxury apartments there for the...
They're very nice. They are the nicest in the market. Well, I would never committed to building affordable housing.
That's why I'm saying, that's what I remember hearing.
I didn't.
I wasn't on council at the time, but I was back there in the back at all the meetings, and that's what and we can go back to...
Yeah, we're, certainly geared towards the military. That's taking place. Not all of our 60-plus current residents are military, but the majority of them are.
Mr. Smith?
That's not
I appreciate you bringing the tax info, because obviously I went to the tax collector's website and it's showing $5 million worth of land value, and I'm like,
Our property tax this year is $25,000.
So you're saying the 200,000 is going to be off of our 4.19 mils?
Yes.
Based off of where we're at, and that's just based off of what the purple section is going to be, not included once you finish the remaining yellow sections.
Yes, sir.
Do you have, I'm sure you do, I'm sure you have what you think an estimate would be, I guess, based off of that whole thing built out, of what potentially could be the assessed value on it, what the revenue would be to the city?
Yes, 270 plus thousand a year.
Thank you, sir.
Maybe, thank you, Mr. Odom, for coming out. Maybe hop on that real quick. So 270 built out, and that's the city's portion only. The county's portion then would be about double that?
Almost triple.
Triple, yeah.
I think this county's 13 mils, somewhere in that range. Yours is 4.3 something, but these numbers are only based on your 4.3 mils.
Yeah, I think they're around 9 mils county, I think, is total. Maybe 10. Maybe we're at 10. 10 and 4?
10 something.
Okay. So so your tax bill, they're going to the county as well. As Mr. Payne mentioned, lots of numbers, lots of, ordinances and history that goes back. I'm trying to look, I would never blame a private business owner for coming to ask for the government for some help. And that's what you're here doing, asking for help. So I do not blame you for that. We're obviously up here stewards of the city money, city operations, the money that comes into it, and obviously the taxes will be a part of that, and we're appreciative of it.
I'm not asking for your help, I'm just taking advantage of what you offer the public.
And the council offered you, and I understand, hey, I didn't, and that's kind of where I'm going with this. You're like, I don't know exactly how I'm going to develop it, but let me start here, and we'll see where that number shakes out. So what I did, I had to take a picture of it because it's on 2 different pages, but when you originally came to the council and asked for adoption of 100% waiving of those fees, right? And they did it, and it's all in here. The numbers were related to a 55,000 square foot retail commercial, and then I look at the revised is 14,000, not 55,000.
Well, the original plan didn't have 2 hotels, it had fewer apartments.
Right, and trust me, I'm going back and forth through this as well, going, okay, that went up, this came down, that went up, this came down. So I'm looking at that. I just want to double check here. And then office space, you originally had 160,000, and now you're at 72,000.
Yes.
And then
with the Air Force, we had to swap office space for hotel rooms. And our lease with them, they had a matrix that said if you want more of this or more of that or less of this, you got to fit in our matrix. And we had to switch some of our things for more of this.
Right, and then the 2 other things that obviously stand out that varied from the original was a daycare being added at 16,000 square feet, and then a storage facility, or I'm assuming those are little garage doors, kind of?
No, that building is a 3-story indoor storage facility.
I got you, just so like, yeah, the new way of storing is 120,000 square feet. Now, on that storage facility of 120,000 square feet, are there any water impact fees on it, water and sewer impact fees on it?
There are some, but it's only for the bathrooms in the building, so they're very low.
Very low there, okay. Yeah, again, I can't blame you for coming up here and looking for it, and you've got $34,000 remaining, and the number's really like 100 and minus the 34 brings you to the $99,000. Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Owen? Anyone from the public want to speak? Seeing none, council, it's up to you. We need a motion.
Question for staff.
Oh, sure.
A little confused, and thank you for the presentation. This is and we appreciate the development you've done for Walton Square, now the Uptown Station, etc. And this is a jewel of the city, so thank you. Or another jewel of the city, I should say. I'm a little confused, and this may be a question for the city attorney. So are we obligated as a city to fund more water and sewer taps, or has that expired and this is a new request? I think that
It's not specifically addressed in the ordinance, that question, so I think it's in the discretion of the council. You know, the developer annexed into the city with this agreement in place and got a certain amount of money at that time. And now we're many years later and he's making a request that, frankly, I think you have the discretion to decide either way under the way the ordinance is written. That's why we put it on the agenda. I don't think you're obligated either way.
Right. But I will say, public-private partnership, we've heard it's been pushed. And for a lot of us, this is, let's face it, there's not 52 acres that came into the city at a period of time. So, hindsight, I think maybe the dollar amount is we probably should have used, the flow ERC totals, because those are timeless. The dollar is not, right? Due to multiple things on that side. It's still above, right? It still would have been above what was originally proposed on that side. But hindsight, that's why I say if it is a recommendation, we'd like to see ERCs because you're not doing this. The dollar amount is probably where we shouldn't have tied to it other than ERCs being involved.
because I guess from my position, obviously filling in the seat, but up to speed, and I recall this project, and I've been to it, and it's a great project, from my perspective, it's an addition to the city that doesn't otherwise grow, which is why my comments on City Hall. It's not as if we need spreading capacity, but my question is, are we obligated under the previous ordinance to do this addition? And it sounds as if the answer is
I don't think you
not
are obligated.
definite either way.
I think it's a request that you could decide either way based on the information presented by the requesting party.
Okay. And so from my personal perspective, okay, that'll go in the comments.
All right.
I would respectfully disagree with your attorney. The way the ordinance is written, there is no
expiration date?
Yeah, it says annex in voluntarily, you get your fees waived. It doesn't say you get them waived for 2 years or 3 years. It says for your project, you get them waived. I will disagree with her that I think this is more of a requirement than the decision one way or the other. Obviously, y'all can do what you want, but that's my feeble legal attempt at a legal determination of the wording. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Would it matter that the project has changed, Kim?
I think it's a discretion for the council. A dollar amount was approved at the time. It wasn't.
It was a dollar amount based off of the
Exactly,
development
which is
order.
Daniel's point, which is why he's making the
And
recommendation.
the development order has changed now. So,
It was prior to.
Okay.
It was not, I mean, it was conceptual, right? It was trying to figure out before you even got to that. the development.
so it wasn't on a development order, it was on a conceptual, okay.
And I know that because I was on the original calculation, right? So from its infancy,
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Walker.
Go ahead, Dave, I've had a stab at it.
Just make sure I'm following this correctly. Currently, with this tool, this annexation ordinance, roughly the impact has been around 900,000 as far as the 100% that's been waived using this tool. What's the total impact?
957.
Okay, so 957,000. And being on here with multiple councils, and I know you've been a part of this to the very beginning of the process, every single council, if I remember correctly, this is the question, has unanimously supported this tool as far as the incentives of coming into the city, this ordinance, the intention of what it was. And our impact roughly right now is 900,000, and we heard from the development about 270,000 is coming back to us on just property taxes alone, not even counting water utilities and sales tax and other indirect impacts as well. So where I'm bringing this to fruition is it's a 900,000 package so far, and tonight's request is about 10% of that, based off of some changes, some things like that, of what the proposed development was in 2018 compared to now. I think we just need to move forward with closing this out, this 99,000. If the actual was currently what we're seeing today, was available, and that was the development done 6 years ago, or when this was originally starting to be constructed through this ordinance, the previous councils would have continued to unanimously support this tool. And I think we're just now making a conscious decision, of course, on this 100,000, but I'm ready to bring this to a motion once y'all are done with those questions.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Odom, I have a couple questions for you, I believe. And Mr. Payne, real quick on Mr. Schmidt's comments there. I think I saw it in here somewhere. 973 was waiving the fees. The actual construction cost to extend our utilities to him was another number. Is that correct?
Well,
Mr. Payne.
oh, sorry. Yeah, so we split a lift station, cost of a lift station that we did as part of extension of services, and then we ran a water line. We ran another water and sewer line to the property. Because we couldn't tie in where conceptual and we were supposed to. A lot of those, like I said, conceptual wise on the front end, once we got down to the details, stuff like that, and, things have changed.
Was that the $625,000 mentioned in here?
Yeah, there's an attempt at, these different pots and things over there that we had. What we have basically to track everything, because, long story short, tracking wise, we keep it all in a spreadsheet just to make sure we're at, so all those improvements and things like that have been tallied that way. But yeah, so we split roughly, I don't know, was it $500,000 for lift station? Lift station was $500,000.
paid half, y'all paid half.
And then we were supposed to extend water and sewer to the property. There was some there. We thought the county would maybe be a little bit more work with us on a sewer connection. They didn't, but we fulfilled our commitment.
What did that number come in at?
The extension of the extension of the force main through the golf course, I think was, I have to look back at it, it was somewhere around maybe 900.
So 900 there, 250 was splitting it, so that's 1.15 or thereabout.
Something like that.
Plus the 973. So we're getting near $2 million from us on it. And that, if that's the number, that's it. Now, Mr. Odom, the question's for you. If you don't receive this $100,000 again, grant, waiver, whatever it is, are you still going to build the project?
I have to. I've already spent $100 million in your city. Yes, sir.
And then I do, very tiny in real estate compared to what you do. And I so appreciate and just admire your aggressiveness in developing. I really admire that. But this $100,000 cost, one, if you don't get it from us or the departments, you're going to build it. Secondly, that cost will be built into your cost of development to the tenants, to the
tenants pay, it doesn't matter how much money I spend. I can't pass that on to the tenant. Tenant pays market value.
You kind of recoup it from your tenants over a period of time instead of us recouping it in the form. We're going to recoup ours through the tax base anyway. It's going to happen. You're going to recoup it from your tenants. You don't sell anything out there, right?
The tenant's only going to pay market value. I'm betting my money in your city that I can make people pay more than it costs me to make it. But that's certainly not a given. That's a risk that I take.
Sure.
And, the other thing is I put in all the infrastructure in the project. Water and sewer inside of the project was, I don't remember, $6.5 million that I spent on infrastructure in the city in addition to this to get it developable. So I look at it as the city made an avenue to entice me to come to the city and spend my money in the city versus I could have stayed in the county and not had to pay these taxes at all to anybody ever and save that and make more money. And my tenants aren't going to pay any more money because they're a tenant in the city versus in the county. My tenants would pay less money if they were in the county than in the city. Because I try to pass those costs on to them, but they only pay so much. But from a pure financial standpoint, I was better off staying in the county.
Yeah, trust me, I was curious why you did that.
Because of this ordinance.
For the money that was offered there as a part of it. And, I see I see that it did expire. You're here to look for a new one. I don't blame you for coming to look.
It did not expire. It was a 2-year period of window that gave me an opportunity to come do this. It didn't have an expiration.
What prompted the letter? I read your letter to Mr. Peters, and I thought it was under the pretense that 2047 was expiring.
My lease with the Air Force was expiring. I own this land and rent the land.
I
I
thought there was an ordinance 2047. I'm sorry, Ken.
No, it's okay. There was a 2-year period to apply for the incentive.
The ordinance only had a 2-year life on the ordinance, waiving the fees for you annexed into the city. I did my part. I annexed into the city. I spent $100 million plus. I'm going to spend way more money in your city. I feel like I'm just asking for what you offered me to come be a part of your city.
So what prompted you in January to write us a letter seeking the $99,000?
Well, because I couldn't get to those unless y'all said you were going to do it. I couldn't walk into his office and say, I need another $100,000 worth of water and sewer taps. He was only approved to give me $957,000.
That's the issue. If
So I had to
the
go
motion
back.
at the time would have been
I had to come
100%
back.
of the fees, then he wouldn't have had to come back because there wouldn't have been a dollar amount, but council approved a dollar amount that he was.
Yeah, if it had been approved on a number of taps, then it probably wouldn't be here.
Mr. Meade.
And so that, I think this is kind of getting to my question then. It sounds as if we approved all of the water and sewer taps, but instead of stating that or using your technical language, instead, And instead, we placed a dollar amount, and the intent at the time was to cover these. But the result of our good intentions was creating an unintended consequence, which is what's led us here today.
Yeah, my understanding with the ordinance of what enticed me to come into the city was that I was not going to have to pay for the water and sewer taps it took to develop this property.
With no time constraints.
That wasn't part of the ordinance. Yes, sir.
Yes.
But like I said, I'm happy to, with this request, say no matter what I change from here forward, this is all I ever did. I'm okay with that. Where there's, you know, if I do change the use or something and I need more, I'll buy this. But I'll put a this is it clause in here that y'all can say, we're all done here.
And thank you for the clarity. It's taken this to, so we asked you to come into our city, and we said we would cover these. And because we drafted our ordinance the way that we did, it didn't reflect what the understanding was at the time.
No, the ordinance, I wasn't involved with the ordinance. I didn't ask for the ordinance.
But I'm sorry, the agreement that you came in and we would cover your,
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Is that agreement anywhere, by the way? Is that was that a contract? Was that a?
No, what's in the record is what there are. It went back and forth. There were a lot of iterations of it that said it's this much, it's that much, it's this. And in the end, they said you need to go to city council, and well, Mike Beatty was city manager then. He said you need to go to city council and get something approved so we can move forward.
Mayor, in the backup material on page 35 is the agreement in the backup material of the ordinance.
But the bottom line of that agreement was turned into a dollar amount that came to y'all to approve.
Instead of the 100% impact fee being waived, it was a dollar amount threshold.
The ordinance covered the 100%.
The 100%, right, but the dollar amount is what kept.
And that was like, let's put something out there, get you going.
That's it.
Go spend your money, get you in the city, let's move forward. But there was not an agreement that said, come back to us later and ask for more money or whatever. I just took it on maybe good faith or not good faith, depending on what happens here, of that's what would happen. But there's not an exact agreement that says, when this isn't enough to meet the ordinance, come back and ask for more. That was not specified.
See, Mr. Odom, one last, just thinking in my real estate mind for a minute, because I want to make, be fair to you and be fair to the people and be fair to the staff and everything else. So bear with me a second. So we've extended utilities, $900,000, $1 million for utility expenses extended to the property, correct? Close enough? 950, $1,050,000, somewhere thereabouts. And labor, material, labor, and everything else. Waived fees of $973, so we're $1.8 million. If they're each at $9, $1.8, $1.9 million total investment on our behalf, taxpayers, city, government, $2 million in, right? 1.8.
I was not involved in the extension of the water and sewer lines and those things. Those were just part of what were, that were said, here's what you get.
Right, and so there's a $2 million investment from our part. I'm not talking about your part. You've got what you were looking for mostly you've gotten it so far, but if in the future you sell Freedom Tech place out there, that's when you will really receive the full benefits of our work of the 973 plus the 973, $1.8 million. If you sell that complex out there, the buyer's not going to ask if you, does this include the tap fees? They're included. They're getting the benefit of that and you're getting the money, right?
Well, the sale of that property is extremely difficult because it's on a ground lease from the Air Force, which is, I intend on owning it a long time because people don't want to buy things they don't own, that they're just renting.
Is it a 99-year lease?
No, so the Air Force won't do 99-year lease, it's a 50-year lease.
Gotcha.
So 20 years from now, if I go to try to sell something and I tell the new owner, I want full market value, like it's fee simple land, and I've only got 25 or 30 years left on it, they're gonna say, yeah, that ain't gonna happen.
They buy it on cash flow.
Yeah.
They buy it on cash flow, yeah, for the number of years remaining. Gotcha.
Anyone else from the audience who want to comment on this? Council, I think it's up to us to make a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to move forward with approving the request for the additional fee waiver of $99,000 and 19 cents.
Is there a second? A motion on the floor from Mr. Schmidt to waive up to $99,999.19. Is there a second? Seeing none?
Incredibly disappointing.
Mayor, I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead, Mr. Mead.
I would like to go back and review the videos, because I want to see if it was the intent of the city to do this. And as I sit here today, I don't know what it was. If that was, and I want to go back and watch the videos, see what we agreed as a city to do. And if this was the commitment that we made, then I'll support it.
Just read the ordinance. It's all based on the ordinance. The ordinance says you'll do it.
I'm stating for the record that I will go back and visit this after looking at the videos, and if that's what we agreed to, then I will support the motion.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. Item 10.2, lease agreement for LSD parking at the corner of Miracle Strip Parkway Southeast, Perry Avenue Southeast.
Mayor and Council, I thought I'd bring this forward. This is kind of a carryover from Mr. Peters and something that Councilman Schmidt kind of alluded to the last time, so we kind of dug into it where it had. And there's a little bit more to it than just, hey, we want you guys to approve this ordinance again. Let's go back to our workshop, talk a little bit about that real quickly. And in the presentation part of it, we had already drawn the ordinance. We had already talked to the property owner. Mr. Peters had done a tremendous amount of work on it with legal, as far as kind of lining this up. This was done ahead of the November 5th election. So when that came, the update for me would have been simply, hey, he stopped this in its tracks, basically, because he didn't want to part with the money. It definitely affects the 3%. We don't have it to spend, but we were this far along, so I said, let me leave it to you guys. It's approximately a $10,000 to $12,000 commitment. There are a couple of things that we discussed in our staff meeting this morning. We don't have yet the approval for crossing over to get to the property. I mean, all of you know what we're talking about. We think that will come. It's just, we've applied. We're just waiting on the second part of it. The state requires 2 different permitting pieces, and one of them has been done, but we're waiting on the second one, which that will come. The Chohans are going to allow us to, they would like a 90-day period where they could, terminate this. That's, again, in your purview. I don't know if, I would like to be neutral on that. It's what you guys, I just wanted you to know that is in the contract, that if they do rush up their development order, I talked to Mr. Burns about that. He didn't feel like that was even a concern at all, that we would be, it's really to run from now through the concert season with the Brooks Bridge having some issues underneath, not being able to get down to the landing to park. This gives them a backup area, which Mr. Schmidt mentioned last time. So it's strictly for your, again, kind of like it's in your court, make the decision, and staff will make it work either way. This does include a small amount of improvement for about 50 golf cart parking during, again, primarily be used during the concert series. The cost associated with that, Mr. Payne's team went and looked at that. It's about a $5,000 contribution, and then possibly having to put the lot back to the way we got it when we first found it. So that's part of it as well, I believe, if I'm right. And so we're just looking for your guidance on this. Is it something as a group you guys are interested in kind of spending the funds on? It's pretty straightforward.
Thank you, sir. Wow.
great price on rent, it looks like.
It's $500 a month.
Right, and so you say it's 50 spots? I was looking for is there a...
We don't really have, we didn't want to invest the money in a draw out or anything about, you know.
Is it just on the southern portion of the property?
I believe it's the top, I want to say it's the top portion.
Is the north or the south?
I don't know.
It's there somewhere.
Yeah.
I think we're trying to project where people would go, right?
And then I just saw here about the 5,000 access from city parking lot, Ferry Road. That's obviously right. But so they'd come in through Ferry, back behind the landmark building.
Right.
And maybe cut open a driveway through there instead of coming in off of First, or obviously not off of Perry. So it'd be coming through the parking lot. Just open that up and maybe put some gravel in there and to direct them up there or over there. Or maybe right there in front of it.
Well, and Mr. Peters said that we have I did talk to him briefly about this. We've got a contract with a fence company that does some fencing for the city if we had a need to fence that area off. We're not using the whole lot, clearly. I mean, we don't want to do that.
Yeah, but for the concert and access and all that, I'm down, my office is right there, and I don't see people in my Friday nights. My parking lot is not full behind me and everything else. Not to say that 500 is bad, because it's not that bad, but if we were to do it, and we go through that, I guess there's a curb there or whatever else to get in access to that property. It seemed like we would want to reserve the space up on 98 where the crosswalk is to get there. Is that what we're talking about?
I think that's our intent.
So parking on the south end of
the south end of it,
which is closest to 98.
That's right.
And then just come out right there.
Some of the discussion that came up during the staff meeting was that we don't know how effective it's going to be. We think people on golf carts are going to try to get as close to the venue as they can, so it's going to push them closer into the library. They'll be parked all back there behind the donut shop, and across from your office in that area, and use the library parking and also. Again, I don't know what if it were closer, I don't know. It's we'd already gotten legal involved and kind of spent the money to approve everything. So we thought, if you guys have some interest, we're this far along. So I don't want to waste your time, but I just would like your opinions on it. And
most of the golf carters know where to park.
Right.
It's not like they're.
And the lease does cover the full property.
Oh, the full property. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a direction or consensus, number one, I like the idea of securing the parking lot. I would hope that you could also consider modifying some of the signage to educate the public. That we have the fence wrap, educate the public that this is free public parking. And then the old Joe and Eddie's location, that's been great for us. We didn't invest a lot of money in the infrastructure. It's a grass parking lot that works great.
Agree.
So hopefully that's what we can continue here.
But this is only LSV though, right? Not cars.
Well, it came up during the discussion this morning. It is for LSVs, not necessarily golf carts, but there's some.
How about cars?
No cars.
No cars.
No cars.
Why couldn't we put cars on here?
If it was cars, then it's, sorry. I don't think the soil and the sand, I think it's, it would need to be prepped. So I think your costs on the city side, I think we said 5,000.
Right.
Golf cart and stuff can drive over there, but cars, I think you would have to put down some base of some kind.
Be getting stuck. It's sandy.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is an LSV?
A low-speed vehicle. Right. They're street legal. They're different than a golf cart.
So that's the one that's a little bit bigger than a golf cart. The one that we talked about getting on permission to cross.
Right.
Miracle Strip Parkway to get.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mann.
I already know the answer to this question, I'm going to ask it anyways. Since we're renting the whole thing, I'm assuming we're going to be responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of the full property.
I think while we're using it.
If I can give y'all my honest opinion.
Please.
I think it's not worth $500. I think it's worth $1. We got a piece of property that is existing right at the entranceway of our city that we're constantly having to tell them to cut their grass. they're having to pay someone to cut the grass. We're providing a solution to them that's gonna save them money, and then they want $500 in return for that, plus we have to maintain it on top of that. It's not a deal I would make. You know, we made a good deal with Mr. Brunner down on the other corner over there to where we took over the maintenance, and it was basically $1 a year lease. You know, that's kind of how I feel about it, because if we don't take it over, I mean, the second that grass gets too high, they're gonna start getting a letter saying you need to go down there and cut it. And, you know, I kind of feel like we're doing each other a favor. So I don't really like the $500 a month, because I truly only think the thing's only gonna get used maybe less than a dozen times a year.
Yeah.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yeah, from a comp perspective of Mr. Bruner's lot and this lot, you know, we're not gonna be able to get 50 units of some type of alternative transportation or some type of access to parking. My understanding is we were looking for strategic ways, similar to the old Joe and Eddie's lot, to find different spaces for not only parking, but we have, like Mr. Reeves mentioned, the bridge construction, that we can't really truly project what type of impact that will make over the next couple of years with underneath access being shut down and other things. So, I mean, I understand the comp for Mr. Brunner being $1 provides a different environment for this comp. So I also too was interested in bringing it back up because really in the aspect of transitioning between Mr. Reeves and Mr. Peters, I thought this was some low-hanging fruit from a strategic plan of finding parking, finding ways to also improve blighted,ness, and also finding ways to, with this bridge construction, to impact some of that. So.
Just note that one of the discussions was that they are moving pretty quickly forward on their development order. I don't know where that will land, but that's why they wanted the 90-day issue. But Mr. Burns said he wasn't sure that would be an issue, didn't think it would.
I like that part.
Right.
In talking about parking down there, where are we at on the other parcel right next to the landing that we're supposed to get another 38 or 40 spaces out of?
Yeah, so he, as you remember, the lease had some kind of like a critical path going. So his tenant gave him notice that he was leaving, and I do believe he still had some stuff there, but he's supposed to give a written when he's out, and then starts that 60-day clock on that end. So I think, we're not waiting. It starts a 60-day clock where I have to schedule demolition. So
what's our project completion time from that 60 days, I guess?
let's just say, let's say tomorrow, right? Like, say tomorrow he gives us notice on that end. The plans are being prepared, right? They're not finalized, but they're not they're probably like 90%. They're pretty much ready to go. So if they give us notice to say tomorrow, and we can get that thing, capped and knocked down, building permits, within 60 days to prep so it's able to be built, then we're either soliciting a, ITB, which takes a little bit, not gonna lie, or, maybe seeing what we can do as far as a change order to the landing or something similar like that, so we can keep it moving.
So what we're saying is our timeline earliest would probably be late summer, early fall, if not end of the year.
I think there's two different methods and ways to do this. One is going to be substantially longer than the other one.
ITB substantially longer than adding it to a change order to the.
But I think that's a good. I mean that's a good. Plus or minus 1 or 2 months. I think you're spot on.
Okay.
I did see the pad, the old science center building there, right? Wasn't that what was there beside the bathroom? That parking lot's looks like it's done.
The golf cart.
Is that only golf cart?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you see how much cars were?
I did, but it was trucks.
There's recent
I didn't even notice it was only golf cart.
Yeah, I think we overlooked that, but there's signage in there, specifically,
Education, encourage, enforce. Right?
Yeah, we got a couple, I think Tiffany got some comments saying,
who made these spaces so small, for my cart and did it so, I think, but it's posted that it's golf cart or LSV or whatever, whatever that is, parking only.
Any other comments or questions from council for Mr. Payne? Anyone from the audience want to speak on this? Council, back to you.
Well, let's throw this back out there. Make a motion to move forward with staff's proposed lease agreement with BTC Downtown Fort Walton Beach LLC for public parking lot at the corner of Miracle Strip Parkway, Southeast, and Perry Avenue Southeast for the purpose of public parking for LSVs.
It's been moved by Councilman Schmidt, seconded by Councilman Meade, to approve the lease agreement for low-speed vehicle parking at the corner of Miracle Strip Parkway and Perry Avenue Southeast.
Just for the reasons I mentioned just a little while ago.
Got it. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I know that we're talking about just LSV vehicles, but looking at the parking lot, there's a lot of vehicles that can still drive on softer sand around here. I think it'll be used more than we anticipate, and it's not perfect, but it's not very little things in life are perfect. I think it'll be a nice short-term amenity, and if it doesn't work, then we can terminate. But I think it's well worth a try, and the price point seems acceptable.
Is that a second?
Further discussion? That was his second.
I didn't hear the second. I really didn't. I was like, is he going to give the second?
Yeah, it's been moved and seconded.
Okay.
All right.
I have a question. Is it just for this year that we're talking about?
I believe the lease terminates the end of the year. Right.
You believe or?
Through the, Ms. Cobb, do you have it? I don't have the backup up before.
Lease is 3 years.
I think it was 3 years, I was gonna pull it up.
3 years.
3 years, but a 90-day out.
Either party can give a 90-day out?
Yes, I believe so.
So it's really a 90-day lease. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
rolling 90-day lease.
Okay.
It's 3 years because you keep the rent at.
Right,
staff.
yes, gotcha.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I will, just, I'm with Travis on this. I think the upkeep of it, I'm going to say it's not going to be used as much. It's not a huge amount of money either, but because of again, I live down there and see it every Friday night, even in concert nights, and it's just not, I don't think it's necessary. I think the existing city parking lot that we have there that all the LSVers and golf carters all already know anyway are going to just use that. But anyway, I won't be supporting this. I just don't think we'll use it. I think it's a fair deal. If we had it for $1, maybe I would just to get the parking, but not for $500 plus the upkeep. I won't be supporting it.
All right, Mr. Schmidt?
Try to get a stab at it. I'm gonna try to get a stab at it. But we haven't seen the impacts of building a new bridge. I know in the past, whether it's concerts or downtown things, so please consider, I'm just trying to change your mind one more time before we get to vote, because of, again, a low cost impact while trying to mitigate all the different bridge construction and other things, where I completely respect your evaluation because you are so close to that property and seeing different things of how it's been used or not being used in the past. But we have not built a bridge and getting ready to close it down and do different things like that.
When you said low cost, are you suggesting that you are in favor of the $1, or are you sticking on the 500?
Well, $1 is less than 500.
Well, I mean, because I can support $1. I can support $1.
Yeah, I'm not going back to the tenant asking them the landowner.
While we maintain the property for them, though.
If you're buying a car for me, you come back and ask for a discount for me.
I understand, and during this time, if you want to put your position out there, we can. So.
I will put my position out there.
Mr. Mayor, sounds like he wants to put his position out.
So surprisingly enough, I'm going to support this just from the aspect, I think the $500 is ridiculous in my opinion. But the 90-day out, I'm willing to try it for the summer to look at it. I'm with Payne. I don't think it's going to get used to any sort of extent that is going to justify us on the upkeep and the $500, but we have a 90-day out. So worst case scenario, we run it through the summer and it doesn't look like it makes sense. If I get elected, I'll be up here making a motion to initiate the 90-day out. So, I mean, I like the 90-day out. So I'm going to support it because of that.
Any further comments from council? Council, please vote. And it does pass 4-1. Thank you, council. Let's go to item 11, city manager reports.
Great,
Mr. Reed.
thank you, Mayor, Council. I'll try to keep it short. I just wanted to update you guys on a few projects. Obviously, it's been a little bit tough for me because I'm taking over for Mr. Peters. Several of you have had different requests for information. I try to fill them as quick as I can, but it's tough sometimes. But these were specific to Mr. Peters. But a couple of you have asked about the golf driving range, where we are during that. I talked to staff and tried to formulate exactly kind of where we are. I went out and met with Jacob, and I've talked to Tiffany about it, and I've kind of come up with the fact that, instead of going out for a ITB or a RFP or any of that, and it being a real formal, large request, I think it was really more geared as it's going to show up on our website. Guys can propose to the city what they think, kind of an open call for something, to our effect, and then it'll be in your purview. So I think Mr. Bethea requested some more information on exactly, because he was going to kind of handle those proposals for partial lease or agreements and things, and then he was going to give us some feedback. So just today I got that information. I'm going to try to respond back to him and let you guys know, hopefully by the next meeting, exactly where we stand with that. I'm sorry to push it off another.
And I think we're still waiting to hear back from Eglin, too. I was trying to follow up on an old email that Mr. Peters had from them, so we're still waiting.
Okay, good deal.
Yeah.
So that there's a couple different loose things out on that I haven't totally been filled in on, but we're working on kind of sorting that out. The other one is, Mr. Smith, is for you, Liza Jackson, the boat ramp and all the improvements down at Liza Jackson. Everything's done. It's sitting in a file waiting to go out for RFP in May, because I think the last email which I printed was from staff, and Tiffany kind of coordinated all that, and the deal is that between her and Jason Floyd and all that design work, they didn't want to put it out at a particular time because they don't want to let boat activity and trailers and all going while they're trying to do it. So it really is going to be bid in May. Hopefully it will be begun and underway heavy in the end of the summer so that we don't impact too many boaters. They're going to start all the improvements upland so that they least impact on the water as they can, and then as we kind of phase into the project, it'll get down there where nobody's using it anyway during the cold time.
So my question for that is if we wait to bid it till May, how long is the bid process? 60 days?
Typically, we let it post for like 45, but if there's a bunch of questions and stuff, that'll extend it too. It can go 30 or 45.
So 45 days, and then it's got to come back to council at that point in time.
It's got to fall on that council cycle.
So it's at least going to be 60 days to between 60 and 75 before it gets in front of a council. So you're talking about June.
Missing contract afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Usually some time frames with, there's a protest period of like 5 days, I think it is. After that contract period, it gets better, right? Then you're looking at order and materials and stuff like that. So that's always what we run into. You're either bidding, designing, or constructing during Christmas. It just always happens.
Yeah. So we're best case scenario, you're under construction by September, maybe.
With an award in
July.
If you're warranted in July, yeah, I think that would probably be, and it's got to fit on the contractor's schedule.
Correct. And then I guess my concern
is there something that you would want to see pushed forward and us go with it? It's ready.
So that's what my concern is. My concern is if we wait till then to get it up and going, and we're talking best case scenario, which I don't think ever really happens too much, we're going to impact the following season.
Yes.
So if it were me, I'd may move it up 2 months. Or in the award say, hey, construction's expected to start by.
That's what you do.
No sooner than.
That's what you do. You put a start date on.
By, I think me and Jeff, when we talked about it, acceptable was August. Because kids are going back to school, all that kind of deal. You only have one big holiday after that. So as long as you were under construction by August, it would give you the maximum amount of time to have that thing finished come following spring, which would be March, which is where it's going to start the season off.
August, day after Labor Day, we could build that in. I'm not trying to get briefed on it. I don't really know too much about the project, but if it's a priority on the ITV deal, and it's,
Well, I just know that every time a government starts a project, we tend to do it at the worst possible time. So, and there's never a good time, I understand that. But timing wise for something like that, it would seem like to me that if you could start construction in August, it would give you the maximum amount of time with the least amount of impact to the community, and hopefully be done by the time the community is ready to use it again. That is just kind of where my thinking is at.
And no snow and no hurricane.
That's our plan. So we did chase it down, that's where we are, at least you've got an update. The last and final was from last weekend, or last council meeting was about the fire assessment fee, fire consolidation. After that meeting, Ms. Barnes and I worked on formulating a list of people that should receive the letter, to give you guys a little bit better clarity on, instead of just, hey, how about these guys, how about these guys? I think that was maybe my inexperience. I didn't have a better direction for you. I talked to purchasing about the RFP so that we can see how much it's actually going to cost. And their input was, maybe we add one little tidbit into that where we add an efficiency for our department. Maybe they could give us a little bit of input where there might be a little bit of low-hanging fruit there that might help us somewhere. So if we're going to do all this work on consolidation, hey, maybe throw this one little word in there and they help us a little bit with ours. If nothing comes of that, at least we have a little bit of an efficiency report that we've paid good money for that maybe we can implement some way on our own. So that was something else. After talking to purchasing, we've given her just a little breather before this goes right back out. She said she thought it would be good if we let it rest for just a meeting or two. So we've given it just a little bit of breathing room before we go right back out and request for proposal for the consolidation. So at least you know where we're at. And Ms. Barnes and I are working on the letter that you guys want to draft, because the direction was it goes the letter and the RFP about the same time. It kind of coincides with that. So that's kind of what we're doing, is what you guys, I think, wanted us to do.
I think the letter would go to any jurisdiction touched by the 3 fire districts.
Well, we thought we would do it board to board. Isn't that kind of what our discussion was, that again, the boards, directly the boards, because you guys are the direction and the boards, we deal with the direction and boards there. So that's where we kind of wanted to start, and then we can always enhance that if you find that there are more people that you think would be pertinent. But like I said, we want to be able to give you some more detailed direction on that, so that's our next step. And that's about all I have tonight.
Rec facility expansion, where are we at on that? I know it went out back out. Should have went back out.
The 8 or 9 ball fields, Danny or Tiffany one.
Or no, is it still in protest?
No, it went back. It's ready to go back out if we wanted to, and we from the protest time, like, we cleaned all those things up, discrepancies and maps and all that. But we also know that there's pickleball courts and structures. Some of the things that were argued upon, they're being potentially added somewhere else too within the county, south end as well. So, I don't know if it takes warrants another look on that side of that, because that covered pickleball structure was a later add, kind of jumbled things up. We cleaned it up, but now that vacuum might be taken up at the fairgrounds.
So is the question, we don't know if we're getting that TDD money that they said that they were going to give us for that, or
partnership between the county and the city is what you're talking about for the pickleball courts, and possibly a covered pickleball courts, and so that.
Well, they were giving us a bunch of money.
We talked to with Jeff, they were talking back and forth about per pickleball court, but there was never anything in like solid writing.
Yeah, it kept getting to a point like it was the juice worth the squeeze. It was like you had to add so many.
We still got some county money. I think where my concern is not the pickleball county money, but we still got some county turf money
Yeah.
For the project, okay.
Yeah, it was really just did the
Just the pickleball
Did the
scope.
covered pickleball structure need to be in there?
Oh, yeah,
That's-
what,
that's-
500,000, I think, from TDC was allocated towards it? I'd have to go back and look.
I didn't hear.
So I guess my question is if that's a discussion, can we bid out that minus that and call that phase 2, and it'll give us time to figure out what we're gonna do there? Whether the county's gonna give us some money, whether we're gonna put pickleball courts there, whether we're gonna do something else there?
Yeah, that's the talk we had before Jeff left on that end, but we just, priorities wise, we wanted to, see what they were moving into,
Well, my understanding is that stuff, based off of the way that we were paying it, shouldn't be affected by this charter stuff.
Well, the operations and
will.
extra FTEs
Yeah.
will, but depending how.
Well,
we-
I was told that at best, we would only need half an FTE, and based off of what we got open out there in the city, we got that right now, so.
Who told you that?
Jeff.
I hadn't heard that.
No
Yeah,
FTE,
yeah.
you'd need no FTE for Liza Jackson, and he told me.
Liza
you'd only-
Jackson, you don't know.
Yeah, you'd only need half an FTE for the new rec facility is what he told me. The only other thing that you'd have would be your
Yeah,
utilities.
it's just operational
the-
utilities, that
yeah,
kind of
stuff
stuff.
like
the
that,
lighting,
which-
power bill and all that.
Yeah, which I would imagine we shouldn't have a problem being able to afford the power bill out there.
Our rates are going up, just like, we get those same FP&L.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we can find the money in the budget somewhere.
Sure.
I mean, if it's a priority for council.
real piece of cake right now.
Well, we got to get shit done. And
Yeah, I know.
That's just what it boils down to. So, unfortunately, this rec facility would be on its way if it weren't for what happened with it, and we would be off and running with it now. So, it's everything's hurry up and wait. I don't want to wait. I want to get this stuff done. So, it's only going to get done if someone's pushing it. And, I think of what I've experienced probably these past 2 years is I haven't been pushing hard enough. And, I know it takes more than me, obviously, but I'm ready to get these projects done because from my standpoint, I think that community wants them. I think that we can find places in the budget to be able to afford these specific projects. Here's the great thing about these projects. By the time you get them up and rolling, we're going to be into another whole budget. So we've got plenty of time to figure out how to pay for it. It's not like we've got to figure out how to pay for it tomorrow, the operational expense to it. So, you give us a year to figure out how to budget for something, we can do it. So that's where I'm at.
Well, do we actually have the money from the TDC and the county for the pickleball courts? Do we actually have it?
No, I think that's what the discussion was. We didn't, I guess that was just a talked about thing. It wasn't an agreed upon thing.
That's what I'm asking.
Instead of waiting around to figure out whether that's going to happen or not, if we can bid it out in a phase 1 and do everything that's not encumbered by that, then it'll give us a year, 6 months, however long it's going to take to build that thing to figure out what we're going to do with that area, whether it is going to be pickleball courts or whether we pivot into another direction.
Mayor, one more thing. We have, if you're done, Councilman.
I'm done.
The City Council regular meeting next is on February 25th. Obviously, we'll all hopefully be here for that. And we've got a workshop Tuesday, March 11th, 4 p.m. for the Community Development Block Grant Program. So we've got that looking forward to. And then on Tuesday, March 11th is our regular March, beginning of our council meetings.
And election day.
That's right. Oh, is that election day?
Yeah. Is that the CRA?
CDBG. Yeah, you're getting there. And that is all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Ms. Cobb?
I don't have anything tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, go back to mayor council comments, and we're back to Mr. Perry. I'm good. Mr. Mead?
I agree. I'd like to see the park moving forward. I like your phased approach idea. I think the fields are going to, we know there's a demand for them. I don't know about the covered pickleball court, although it's nice. I'd love to see the phase thing. So if there's any more direction needed from me, if that's not good enough, whatever else I need to do, please let me know. I would like to see it moving, and I know my time up here is very short, so if there's something I can do to be a part of it, I'd really like to. We'll just stop there.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to echo exactly what Councilmember Meade just said, and Mr. Smith reminded me that, yeah, if it wasn't for that, when that applicant appealed and, slowed down, or they, whatever, we had to address that issue with the covered pickleball scope. This project would have continued on regardless of the legislation and the constraints and the restrictions, which we would have had to figure out. This project would have been down the road. So again, copy and paste what Meade and Smith just said. I think we all got the consensus, and whatever we can do to bring that project back for bid, I'm ready. That's all I got.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Smith?
I guess the only question I have for you guys is, do you want me to make a motion, or?
I was waiting on it a while ago. You said you're ready to take action.
Is it clear enough, or do you need a motion for me to start sending you down this road?
Push it forward.
We can move forward.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Priority
Yeah.
purchasing, like if you can give priority.
yeah, we'll prioritize it and
Both
move it
of them at
forward.
the top, same time.
Everything, number one, let's do this.
100%. That's how stuff gets done.
Second.
Did I just make a motion?
Yeah, we'll get it going. I mean, let's get it done. I'm all about
You better hope I don't get another 4 years.
it. Me too.
Mr. Walker?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Reeves, Nicole, all the staff that's worked on this, the budget issue. I know there's a long ways to go so that we're all there, and so thank you for all your help. It does kind of lead me back to thinking about these things, that $8 million expansion to the Parks and Rec over there, including 13 covered pickleballs. I do like a phased approach if it must be. You mentioned, Mr. Smith mentioned the community wants them. I hear from people, my constituents or people, voters, all the time about all sorts of things. I just never hear anyone say, please expand it. I don't have small children in that world, so I know y'all are around parents different than me, so I just don't hear it. I didn't feel a groundswell from the community, coming to council saying, please expand it, please grow it. So I know that we've got another comment that I hear frequently up here was regarding the City Hall. I know we've got some large fat reserves, and that's good. I love the idea of paying cash for something. Is the $15 million estimated new City Hall less of a priority than a sports expansion, or are they equal? Are we going to both do them at the same time? I know we hire people to go out and get community input on things, whether it's a road down Hollywood or a roundabout on Hollywood or anything else. And so I, for one, would just like to somehow figure out how to put it before the citizens about a courthouse and Park Recs. Those are two big deals. $8 million, $10 million for the Park and Recs, and then for the courthouse, that's just $25 million.
City Hall.
I'm sorry, City Hall, what did I say? Yeah. So sometimes there are judges in here. No. So, City Hall. So City Hall. Between the City Hall and the Park and Recs, and I know there's a lot of other things on the board, it's just, we're going from a fear of constraint of 3% to exuberance. Let's just do it all. So, I just want to pump the brakes a little bit and see where we get on those things. And prioritize the budget based on, all of us becoming aware of, I have not done it, I've not looked at it, I did Crestviews not too long ago, but, I know it's always a quality of life thing, but, budget-wise, is the rec department fully self-sustaining? I don't know that, don't need you to answer it right now, I'll look at it. If it's fully self-sustaining now, and it's like, well, if it's not, that's okay, it's still a quality of life, but it's like, how much are we willing to feed it? You know, 100,000 a year versus 3 million a year could be a different decision. So I would definitely want to look at those numbers and put it together with our priority of City Hall. And that's all I have for tonight.
All right. Apologize for missing the meeting 2 weeks ago. I'm headed out on the road again starting tomorrow. I hope I'm going to be here for the rest of the meetings to fulfill my term, but you know, we'll see how that goes. I'll be here as often as I can. So,
Don't count
that
on
being said,
You may not see me. I'll leave that